Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Rabbi ishrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. All praise belongs to Allah and to Allah alone. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the example, guide, and final messenger sent to mankind as a means of mercy and a reminder of our final abode and our final return back to our Creator. I want to share with you just 3 short things, nothing more, nothing less. But before that, it is in Allah's mercy and in the example of the Prophet that the Jummah is meant to be a reminder for the Muslims. It is meant to be something that helps us connect back to Allah and helps us connect back to each other. That's why it's a communal experience. And on this day, the day before Eid, when so many of our brothers and sisters are finishing their Hajj, and may Allah accept their Hajj from them, and may Allah make it easy for those who have not been able to experience the beauty and the joy of Hajj to be able to experience it. I want to take this opportunity to just reflect on our current situation. And one element of that, and that is something I think that is very consistent for quite some time now, is the level of frustration that young people are feeling with their connection to their religion or their understanding of Islam, or how we are seeing Muslims and Islam painted in daily life, in mass media or social media, but in a public light. Just like in what happened to the Muslim community after 9/11, where Islam and Muslims were thrown into the public spotlight, so too are we experiencing that now. But I will contend to say that this is probably worse than after 9/11. And that's my personal opinion. But why? This time, it is not a particular incident or an event that's taking place, but it is a group of people that are hijacking our narrative, who are hijacking our, not just our religion, but are becoming the spokespeople for this religion, and are becoming the spokespeople for our community, our diverse, multicultural community who thinks in many different ways, and they are narrowing everything down into thinking in one particular way. And whether we feel this affects us or not, but the reality of what people like ISIS are doing is affecting young people tremendously, because people are either leaving or disconnecting themselves from Islam because what they are seeing is so reprehensible, is so against what they were raised with, that they feel they either have to disconnect from it, or they have to shy away from it, or for the very, 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 very few people who actually think that what they're doing might be right, to become more closer to that way of thinking. So given that just context, or that place of where young people and their understanding and their connection to Islam and the community is, I want to share with you just 3 pieces of advice, or three elements that come from the example of our Prophet. And the Prophet said, خَيْرُ أُمَّتِي قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. He said that the best of generations is my generation, and then the ones after them, and the ones after them, and the ones after them. But he also said that I wish that I could meet my closest companions. And his Sahaba said, Rasulullah, we thought that we were your closest companions. And the Prophet said, no, the ones the closest to me, the most dearest to me, are the ones who listened to my message, who understood it and who followed it, but never met me. So he's talking about you and me. And in the example of the Prophet, there are three things that he did that helped to connect and to make his generation the best of generations. In Hadith Qudsi, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever comes before Allah with a good deed will gain 10 times the like thereof. And whoever comes with an evil deed will be requited with no more than the like thereof. And none shall be wronged. First is the concept of mercy. So these three things I want to share with you. First is the concept of mercy. Allah has put upon himself the rule that when we do something good, he rewards us with 10 times. And in many other examples and many other hadith, it's well beyond 10 times. He rewards a good action with at least 10 times that action. And when we do something wrong, he equates that to just that single wrong. What does that mean? That mercy is above everything else. And not only that, it connects to the second point, which is the importance of positive reinforcement. The concept of returning one to return good with even more good. To return good with more good. Sometimes that can be exhausting, right? I mean, we usually are taught when somebody says Assalamu alaikum, you respond with saying the same or more. Wa alaikum assalam or wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. If somebody says that to you, then respond with more. That's little, that's details, that's something, that's an example, but that's very small. That isn't what changes hearts. What changes our hearts is when someone does something good, you do something the same, if not more. If someone invites me out for coffee, the least I can do is invite them again for coffee. If somebody helps my child with their homework, then the least I can do is help somebody else. This concept of passing it along. It helps make that community that much tighter. It helps make any relationship that much tighter. If any of you are married, you know that one of the basic elements of a marriage to be healthy and loving is that you turn the good that your wife or your husband does and do the same, if not more. One of the most core elements of having a strong, healthy relationship between a parent and a child, or a child and a parent, is when one does something good, you return the same thing, if not more. My son, I remember when I have a 8-year-old son, and when he was 5 or 6, I was putting him to bed, and we had a short conversation, but what he said blew my mind. He did something bad that day, and I was upset at him. And then I felt bad for being upset at him when we were going to sleep. So I told him, I'm sorry that I yelled at you when you did this. And he said, oh, that's okay. And I told him, just because you do this one thing, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. So he froze and his eyes lit up. And he's 5 years old, or he was 5 years old at the time. And he said, wait, you mean I'm not a bad person? You mean when you get angry at me, I am not a bad person? And that blew me away, because kids, especially when they're very, very young, but psychologically, even as they get older, whatever they are said becomes a reinforcement. And that is why positive reinforcement is so important. And I'll give you another example. My wife is from Saudi. I'm not Saudi, but my wife is. And I've visited there several times. And I found something fascinating, something very, to me, very odd, as somebody who's an American Muslim. when you go to certain cities in Saudi, there's something called the religious police. So we have a concept where we're taught enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. So the government has made a department or a police where it's called the munkar, and it's where they enjoin the right and forbid the wrong. But it was fascinating to me because all that I saw are people who go around telling people what they're doing wrong. Brother, your beard is not the right length. Or brother, your pants are too low. Sister, your face is open. You need to cover that face. Or I can see your arms. Sister, please pull your sleeves down. That's all that they do. But what are we taught? Enjoin the right, then forbid the wrong. What comes first? In the example of the Prophet, everything is positive reinforcement, or the positive always outweighs the negative. And then one other example. With that, we're taught of catching somebody in the act, right? When somebody's doing something wrong, you catch them in the act. But what about turning that over on its head? Catching somebody in the act of doing good, especially when it comes to kids. When somebody does good, when someone does wrong, of course, I mean we take that as a standard expectation of parents. When a child does something wrong, the first thing we do is to correct them. But are we not hunting, looking for ways when they're doing something right so we can stop them and say, hey, Yusuf or Aisha, I saw you giving your brother a hug this morning. I thought that was awesome. How many times do we stop and give them that positive reinforcement? And the third thing, the third element, first, that of mercy. Second, positive reinforcement. And the third, words matter. Words matter so much. We are grown, especially if you're raised here, we're taught that, what's that phrase? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Ask any child if that's true, and every single one of them will tell you that's bogus. Words matter. And I want to share an example with you. Celebrities here do service activities, right? They feed the homeless, or they go and they have toy drives. So there's a story of a famous baseball player, a Golden Glove winner, who visited jail to speak to them. This was his act of service. And when he went, he said, I owe who I am today. I am where I am today because of my dad. He said, when I was young, he used to do something funny. When I was young and I would throw the ball, he would tell me, you keep throwing the ball like that, and someday you're going to enter the big leagues. And then when I would hit, and I would hit really well, and my style was right, and my technique was correct, he would tell me, you keep hitting like that, that's amazing. You keep hitting like that, you're going to be hitting in the big leagues. One of the inmates turned to him and he said, I am where I am now because of my daddy. When I was young and I would make mistakes, he would always tell me, you keep doing that, you're going to end up in jail. Words matter. And what other people perceive of us, especially those who are the closest to us, our parents, our siblings, our mates, matters. And I want to ask us, at this opportunity where we have Eid this weekend, and hopefully some of you have the day off on Monday, at this opportunity when we have family together, what can we do? What can we do from these three things to change the relationships with the people that matter most to us? Take a moment and make dua to Allah to ask Him for forgiveness. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. This chance where we have the opportunity to get together with family and our loved ones and our closest of friends, don't let that be an opportunity that we just squander like another weekend. And when Allah gives us the opportunity to come together as a community for Hajj and to turn to Him and to ask Him to help us overcome our weaknesses and to help us become better in our strengths, let's use that opportunity as the Hujjaj have the opportunity to be in Mecca and to go through that beautiful process of Hajj and to come out as renewed, fresh, clean slate individuals. Allah has given us that opportunity also. Every Friday, Allah says that if my servant turns to me and he asks me for forgiveness, I will forgive him. For everything. And we ask Allah to use this opportunity and to help us at this beautiful, beautiful occasion of Eid, to come together not only as individuals who are coming closer to Allah, but also as families and as a community. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الميزان. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو كريم حليم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا غفور. Oh Allah, forgive us for our shortcomings and our weaknesses. Help us to be among those that you are proud of. Oh Allah, help us to meet you in a state where we are our best, and help us to meet you in a state where we are happy and you are happy with us. Oh Allah, make our hearts soft and merciful, and help us to be those who use our strengths to benefit others, and help us to be those who make others and our environment a better place and a more comfortable place to live in. Ya Allah, forgive those who are going through the challenges around the world, in Palestine, in Iraq, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Kashmir, all over the world, here in America, in Los Angeles. Help us to turn to you at times where challenges seem to have no solutions, because there is no help that is greater than your help. And Allah, bless our Prophet, our guide, and your messenger with the best and most cherished of blessings. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad kama sallaita ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim fil alameen innaka Hamidun Majid. Aqimus salah.